The envelope sat between the breadbasket and my water glass. My mother's handwriting on the front. For your own good. My father straightened his tie. My sister aimed her phone at my face. $47,000 I'd sent them over 3 years. And this was the thank you note. They expected tears. They expected begging. They expected the Ivy who always said okay and drove home crying. But that Ivy had a 6-year-old daughter now. And 10 minutes ago, in the parking lot, my mother whispered the one thing she should never have said. What happened next at table 7 of the Magnolia changed everything. For them. What did my mother whisper? And what was in my envelope? I'll get there. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you're listening from. My name is Ivy. I'm 32, and this is what happens when the quiet one stops being quiet. Now let me take you back 6 months, to the night my father decided I was the problem. Crestwood, Georgia. Population, just enough for everyone to know your business by Sunday. I've lived here my whole life. Same streets, same faces, same whispers at the post office. I work at Paw Print Veterinary Clinic on Miller Road. I'm a vet tech. That means I'm the one holding your terrified Labrador still while Dr. Nguyen gives a shot. It means I smell like antiseptic and golden retriever by the time I clock out. My daughter Lily says I smell like love. That kid keeps me honest. Lily is 6. She's in that stage where every sentence starts with, but why? She wants to know why dogs pant, why the sky goes pink, why we don't eat at restaurants like the kids at school. That last one I dodge. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment above the hardware store on Elm. The carpet's older than I am. The faucet drips if you don't turn it just right. But it's ours. It's stable. Lily has her own room with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling that I stuck up there her first night. Stable. That's the word I built my life around. Because stability costs. And for the past 3 years, mine cost exactly $1,300 a month. That's what I sent my parents. Every month. Automatic. The first of the month, my Venmo pinged. $1,300 to Gerald Thornton. Rent money I could have saved. Dance classes Lily could have taken. Dinners out we never had. $1,300 a month. 36 months. $46,800 total. Lily and I ate a lot of rice and beans. I clipped coupons. I hadn't bought myself new jeans in 2 years. But my parents' light stayed on, and that was supposed to matter. Let me tell you about the Thornton family portrait. Growing up, there was a wall in our living room. The brag wall, Brooke called it. Brooke's first place ribbon from the science fair. Brooke's prom photo. Brooke's cheerleading squad picture. Brooke's acceptance letter to community college, framed like it was the Declaration of Independence. My honor roll certificate was taped to the fridge once. It was gone by Thursday. I don't say that for pity. I say it because you need to understand the math. In my family, there were 2 daughters and 1 spotlight, and it was never pointed at me. My father, Gerald, 61, broad shoulders, voice like a judge even when ordering breakfast, had a way of introducing us at church picnics. This is Brooke, my youngest. Pause. Smile. And Ivy. No adjective, no detail, just, and Ivy. Like I was the period at the end of someone else's sentence. My mother, Donna, 58, was subtler. She didn't ignore me. She managed me. Ivy, can you set the table? Ivy, can you pick up Brooke from practice? Ivy, can you stay home this weekend? Your father needs help in the yard. I was the utility daughter. Brooke was the trophy. And Brooke, 4 years younger, 28, blonde, loud, confident in the way people are when they've never been told no. She played the part beautifully. She didn't have to be cruel. She just had to exist in the warm light while I stood in the draft by the door. I thought silence was strength. I thought if I kept my head down, kept helping, kept sending money they asked for, they'd eventually look at me the way they looked at her. That was the first lie I told myself. 3 years ago, Gerald got laid off from Brenton Logistics, where he'd managed the warehouse for 19 years. They gave him a box and 2 weeks severance. He was 58. He didn't tell anyone. Not the neighbors, not his buddy Roy from the VFW. He told Donna it was early retirement. She repeated it to the church ladies like she'd rehearsed it. The call came at 11:14 on a Tuesday night. Donna's voice, thin, cracking. Ivy, your father won't eat. We're 3 months behind on the electric bill. I don't know what to do. I was sitting on Lily's bedroom floor, folding laundry. Lily was 3 then, sleeping hard, arms thrown wide like she owned the whole mattress. How much, Mom? 1,300 would cover the bills and groceries, just this month. Just this month became every month. Gerald's one condition. Don't tell anyone, especially not Brooke. I don't want pity from my own kids. He said it like he was granting me a mission, not asking for a handout. So I kept the secret. I cut my grocery budget. I stopped buying Lily new shoes. Consignment store on 3rd had decent ones for $4 a pair. I picked up Saturday shifts at the clinic when Dr. Nguyen needed help. Meanwhile, Brooke, still living rent-free in our parents' guest room, posted on Instagram a photo of her and Donna, arms around each other, grocery bags on the counter. Caption: I love spoiling my parents. 812 likes. I saw it at midnight after a 12-hour shift. I screenshotted it. Not for any plan, not for revenge. Because it hurt, and I wanted proof that the hurt was real. That screenshot sat in my phone for 3 years. 18 months ago, Brooke met Marcus Webb. The Webbs are Crestwood's version of royalty. Marcus's father runs Webb Properties. Half the commercial buildings downtown carry his name on the lease. Marcus himself is a CPA at the family firm. Quiet, polite, the kind of man who holds doors and remembers your coffee order. Brooke posted the relationship on Instagram before the second date. Gerald's chest puffed up like a rooster. Donna started shopping at the nicer grocery store on Piedmont, the one with the organic section, using, I should note, money I sent. The Webb engagement changed the temperature in my family. Suddenly, image wasn't just important, it was everything. Gerald stopped wearing his old flannel to the hardware store. He bought a blazer. Donna got her hair colored every 6 weeks. They spoke about our family in careful, curated terms, the version where Gerald retired early, Donna arranged flowers, and Brooke was the devoted daughter keeping everyone afloat. I met Marcus exactly once, at a backyard barbecue that summer. He was grilling burgers. I was refilling the lemonade pitcher because Donna pointed at it and said, Ivy. Marcus turned from the grill. So, what do you do? I'm a vet tech. My father materialized behind me. She's still figuring things out. I watched Marcus register that. His eyes moved from Gerald to me. 1 second longer than expected, like he was filing something away. I didn't think about it again. Not then. 2 weeks after the barbecue, Donna called. Her voice was honey thick, the pitch she uses when she needs something. There's a dinner, sweetheart. At the Magnolia, the whole family. Wear something nice, not your work clothes. My stomach dropped, and I couldn't explain why. The Magnolia is the only fine dining restaurant in Crestwood. White tablecloths, actual candles, a piano player on Fridays. I'd driven past it 1,000 times, never been inside. Why the Magnolia? I asked. The Webbs want to see us together before the wedding. United. Donna stretched that word like taffy. It's important, Ivy. United. The last time my mother used that word, she needed me to co-sign Gerald's truck lease. I said yes then. I had a feeling this dinner would cost more. When? Saturday, 7:30. I already made the reservation. Notice she didn't ask if I was free. She informed me. I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Something felt wrong. The way the air feels before a Georgia thunderstorm. Thick, electric, waiting. I called Jamie Holt. My best friend since high school, mother of twin boys, the one person in Crestwood who knew I sent my parents money. She worked reception at the dentist's office and had a lie detector built into her left eyebrow. They invited you to the Magnolia, she said flatly. Yep. Ivy, your parents haven't taken you to dinner since your 16th birthday, at Applebee's. I know. Something's off. I know that too. So don't go. I looked at Lily, coloring at the kitchen table, purple crayon, tongue out, concentrating like a surgeon. If I don't go, they'll tell everyone I'm the one who split the family before Brooke's wedding. That follows Lily too. Small town. Jamie was quiet for 3 seconds. That's a long time for Jamie. Then go. But wear armor. I didn't own armor, but I had something better. a habit of saving every receipt I'd ever been handed. The night before the dinner, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table at 1 a.m. with a calculator and a knot in my chest. Here's what I knew. My parents had power over exactly one thing in my life: Lily. My ex-husband Tyler wasn't a bad man. He was a decent man who realized at 27 that he didn't want to be a father yet. We divorced when Lily was 2. Joint custody on paper, but Tyler took her every other weekend and called it good. He moved to Savannah, started dating a dental hygienist named Courtney, bought a house with a yard. Tyler's mother, Mrs. Pratt, she was the variable. She'd wanted full custody of Lily from the start. She believed single mothers were a crisis. She kept a folder. I'm not exaggerating. She kept a folder of things she thought proved I was unfit: the apartment above the hardware store, my irregular hours, the time Lily showed up at preschool with mismatched socks. If my parents told Mrs. Pratt I was unstable, if they gave her ammunition, stories, embellishments, she'd hand that folder to a lawyer faster than Sunday brunch. I looked down the hall at Lily's door. The glow-in-the-dark stars leaked pale green light through the crack. Losing my parents? I could survive it. I'd been half lost to them since I was 12. Losing Lily? That wasn't an option. That wasn't even a thought I could hold in my head without my chest closing. So I made a decision. Go to the dinner. Stay calm. Sign whatever they put in front of me. Keep the peace. Protect Lily. That was the plan. But plans change when your mother says your daughter's name like a weapon, and mine was about to. Saturday afternoon, 4 hours before dinner, I was packing Lily's overnight bag for Jamie's house: pajamas, toothbrush, Mr. Bunny, the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was born, now held together with love and dental floss. While I waited for her to pick shoes, a 10-minute process for a 6-year-old, I opened Venmo on my phone. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe? Or the feeling that I should know exactly where I stood before walking into whatever was waiting at table 7. I scrolled. January, February, March, all the way back. 36 months of green arrows pointing away from my checking account. 1,300 here, 1,300 there, an extra 500 in December. For Dad's prescription, Donna had texted at 2 a.m. I added it up twice. $46,800. $46,800. I set the phone on the counter and stared at the number like it was someone else's life. That money was dance classes. It was a better apartment. It was a savings account for Lily's future. Instead, it kept Gerald's lights on and Donna's hair appointment funded. I should have closed the app. I didn't. I opened Instagram. Brooke's grid was pink and gold, curated like a boutique window. And there, posted yesterday, the newest photo. Brooke hugging Donna, grocery bags on the counter. Caption: 3 years of making sure my parents never worry. Family first. 847 likes. Marcus had left a heart emoji. I scrolled to the comments. Someone wrote, "You're such an amazing daughter." And underneath my mother's reply, "I'm so blessed to have you, Brooke. You're my rock." My rock. I screenshotted everything. Then I opened my laptop printer. I wasn't planning revenge. But I was done planning to cry. 7:28 p.m. The Magnolia's parking lot was half full. I recognized Gerald's truck, freshly washed. Unusual for a man who hadn't washed it in 6 months. Brooke's white Kia sat 2 spots over, a Web Properties bumper sticker on the back that I was sure Marcus didn't put there. I checked my reflection in the rear view. Dark blouse, clean jeans, the only pair without a bleach stain. Hair straight, no fuss. I didn't look like a woman about to be ambushed. I looked like a woman picking up takeout. In my bag, under my wallet, a manila envelope. Thin, light, heavy enough to end 3 years of silence. I walked in. Table 7, near the window. Candles lit, bread basket centered, water glasses already filled. The piano player in the corner was working through something soft and forgettable. Gerald sat at the head, of course, in a blazer I'd never seen. Donna wore a navy dress, pearls I recognized from her anniversary set. Her eyes were already pink-rimmed. Pre-performance. Brooke sat beside Marcus, champagne flute in hand, face done up like a magazine ad. Her phone leaned against the crystal bud vase in the center of the table, screen facing my empty chair. I knew that angle. I'd read an article last year about how people position phones for covert recording during custody disputes. The camera was aimed right where my face would be. Marcus stood when I approached. He was the only one. Ivy. He nodded. Slight smile. Genuine. Hey, Marcus. Gerald didn't rise. Donna patted the chair beside her. You look nice, honey. Sit. The chair was cold. The bread smelled warm. And across the table, my sister's phone screen glowed faintly red. Recording. For 15 minutes, we pretended. He was a decent man who realized at 27 that he didn't want to be a father yet. We divorced when Lily was 2. Joint custody on paper, but Tyler took her every other weekend and called it good. He moved to Savannah, started dating a dental hygienist named Courtney, bought a house with a yard. Tyler's mother, Mrs. Pratt, she was the variable. She'd wanted full custody of Lily from the start. She believed single mothers were a crisis. She kept a folder. I'm not exaggerating. She kept a folder of things she thought proved I was unfit. The apartment above the hardware store, my irregular hours, the time Lily showed up at preschool with mismatched socks. If my parents told Mrs. Pratt I was unstable, if they gave her ammunition, stories, embellishments, she'd hand that folder to a lawyer faster than Sunday brunch. I looked down the hall at Lily's door. The glow-in-the-dark stars leaked pale green light through the crack. Losing my parents? I could survive it. I'd been half lost to them since I was 12. Losing Lily? That wasn't an option. That wasn't even a thought I could hold in my head without my chest closing. So I made a decision. Go to the dinner. Stay calm. Sign whatever they put in front of me. Keep the peace. Protect Lily. That was the plan. But plans change when your mother says your daughter's name like a weapon, and mine was about to. Saturday afternoon, 4 hours before dinner. I was packing Lily's overnight bag for Jamie's house. Pajamas, toothbrush, Mr. Bunny, the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was born, now held together with love and dental floss. While I waited for her to pick shoes, a 10-minute process for a 6-year-old, I opened Venmo on my phone. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe? Or the feeling that I should know exactly where I stood before walking into whatever was waiting at table 7. I scrolled. January, February, March, all the way back. 36 months of green arrows pointing away from my checking account. 1,300 here, 1,300 there, an extra 500 in December. For Dad's prescription, Donna had texted at 2 a.m. I added it up twice. $46,800. $46,800. I set the phone on the counter and stared at the number like it was someone else's life. That money was dance classes. It was a better apartment. It was a savings account for Lily's future. Instead, it kept Gerald's lights on and Donna's hair appointment funded. I should have closed the app. I didn't. I opened Instagram. Brooke's grid was pink and gold, curated like a boutique window. And there, posted yesterday, the newest photo. Brooke hugging Donna, grocery bags on the counter. Caption: 3 years of making sure my parents never worry. Family first. 847 likes. Marcus had left a heart emoji. I scrolled to the comments. Someone wrote, "You're such an amazing daughter." And underneath my mother's reply, "I'm so blessed to have you, Brooke. You're my rock." My rock. I screenshotted everything. Then I opened my laptop printer. I wasn't planning revenge. But I was done planning to cry. 7:28 p.m. The Magnolia's parking lot was half full. I recognized Gerald's truck, freshly washed. Unusual for a man who hadn't washed it in 6 months. Brooke's white Kia sat 2 spots over, a Web Properties bumper sticker on the back that I was sure Marcus didn't put there. I checked my reflection in the rear view. Dark blouse, clean jeans, the only pair without a bleach stain. Hair straight, no fuss. I didn't look like a woman about to be ambushed. I looked like a woman picking up takeout. In my bag, under my wallet, a manila envelope. Thin, light, heavy enough to end 3 years of silence. I walked in. Table 7, near the window. Candles lit, bread basket centered, water glasses already filled. The piano player in the corner was working through something soft and forgettable. Gerald sat at the head, of course, in a blazer I'd never seen. Donna wore a navy dress, pearls I recognized from her anniversary set. Her eyes were already pink-rimmed. Pre-performance. Brooke sat beside Marcus, champagne flute in hand, face done up like a magazine ad. Her phone leaned against the crystal bud vase in the center of the table, screen facing my empty chair. I knew that angle. I'd read an article last year about how people position phones for covert recording during custody disputes. The camera was aimed right where my face would be. Marcus stood when I approached. He was the only one. Ivy. He nodded. Slight smile. Genuine. Hey, Marcus. Gerald didn't rise. Donna patted the chair beside her. You look nice, honey. Sit. The chair was cold. The bread smelled warm. And across the table, my sister's phone screen glowed faintly red. Recording. For 15 minutes, we pretended. Gerald asked Marcus about a property deal on the south end of town. Donna complimented Brooke's earrings. Marcus asked me how work was going. I said fine. Nobody asked about Lily. The appetizers arrived. Shrimp cocktail, roasted beet salad, things I'd never ordered in my life because they cost more than my weekly grocery run. I ate one shrimp. It tasted like money I'd sent. Then Gerald cleared his throat. That sound. I'd heard it 1,000 times before report cards, before lectures, before every announcement that rearranged my life without my consent. The throat clear was his gavel. He reached into his blazer and produced a white envelope. Donna's handwriting on the front, careful cursive. For your own good. Ivy. Gerald set it between the bread basket and my water glass. Your mother and I have been thinking about this for a long time. Donna pressed her napkin to her eyes. On cue. Gerald opened the envelope himself, unfolded 2 typed pages. He read aloud, measured, rehearsed, like he'd practiced in the bathroom mirror. The letter said, due to irreconcilable differences in values and lifestyle, the family had decided to release Ivy from the obligations and expectations of the Thornton household. It said my personal struggles had created unnecessary tension ahead of Brooke's wedding. It said this was an act of compassion. The language was too clean for Gerald. Donna must have looked up templates online. Translation: we're cutting you off. Don't come to the wedding. Don't contact us. Disappear. Gerald placed the letter flat on the table, smoothed the crease with his palm, and set a pen beside it. We just need your signature, sweetheart. Sweetheart. He hadn't called me that since I was 9. I picked up the letter. Read it again, slowly this time. Not because I needed to understand it, but because I needed them to wait. Gerald's knee bounced under the table. I could feel the vibration through the floor. There's a second page, I said. Just the acknowledgement, Gerald said quickly. Standard. I turned the page. The second sheet was simpler. 1 paragraph. My name, a signature line, a date, and above it, I, Ivy Thornton, voluntarily relinquish all familial ties and agree to have no contact with the Thornton family or its extended relations. Extended relations. That meant the Webbs. I set the page down. And if I don't sign? Gerald's jaw worked. Donna stopped dabbing her eyes. Ivy, Gerald said, don't make this harder than it has to be. That's not an answer, Dad. He leaned forward. If you don't sign, we'll have to protect Brooke's future. And ourselves. Donna turned to me. Her voice dropped, soft enough that Marcus, seated across the table, had to lean in to hear. Tyler deserves to know what kind of mother you really are. We've kept quiet long enough. There it was. Tyler, custody, Lily. I understood the architecture now. This dinner wasn't about releasing me, it was about silencing me. Sign the paper, vanish quietly. Or they'd call my ex-husband, his mother, and anyone who'd listen with stories about the unstable single mother who couldn't keep it together. Brooke lifted her champagne, sipped. Her eyes flicked to the phone leaning on the vase, still recording. Marcus sat motionless, fork halfway to his mouth, watching the scene like a man slowly realizing he walked into the wrong room. My mother whispered, Think about Lily. Do the right thing. Think about Lily. She said my daughter's name the way you'd lay down a trump card, casually, like it cost her nothing. But it cost me everything. I looked at my mother, really looked. The pink-rimmed eyes, the trembling lip, the pearl necklace catching candlelight. A woman who'd texted me at 2 a.m. begging for $500, who'd called me crying about the water bill, who'd written, You're the only one I can count on. and was now using my child as a bargaining chip in a restaurant she couldn't afford. Something inside me didn't snap. I want to be clear about that. Snapping is loud. This was quiet. This was a door closing, a lock turning. The last flicker of, maybe they'll change, going dark like a pilot light. Donna leaned closer. Her perfume, the same white diamonds she'd worn my entire life, filled the space between us. Sign it, Ivy, barely audible. Or I will personally call Tyler's mother and tell her you are an unfit mother. I have stories, and I will make sure Lily grows up knowing you chose pride over her. She pulled back, smiled, the satisfied smile of a woman who believes the game is already won. I straightened my back, breathed in, breathed out. Under the table my hands were shaking, but not from fear, from something older, hotter, and far more patient. I thought about my bag on the floor beside my chair, the manila envelope inside. She had radar for drama the way dolphins have sonar. Donna reached for Gerald's arm. "Gerald, lower your voice, people are watching." "She's deflecting." Brooke's voice cut in, sharp and practiced. "This is what she does, Dad. She makes everything about herself." Brooke turned to Marcus with the expression she'd perfected since childhood, the wide-eyed, hurt but brave face. "I'm sorry you're seeing this. She's always been like this." Gerald followed up, pivoting to Marcus like a salesman closing a deal. "Marcus, I apologize for the disruption. Ivy has always been dramatic. This is exactly why we had to make this decision." Marcus said nothing. His water glass sat untouched. His eyes moved between Gerald and me with the focused stillness of a man running calculations in his head. I watched Mrs. Patterson lean toward her husband. Her lips moved. I didn't need to hear the words. In Crestwood, witnesses were permanent. Gerald tapped the pen against the letter. "Sign it, Ivy. Let's put this behind us and enjoy the rest of the evening." His voice was calm again, controlled, the patriarch restoring order, but his hand was shaking, just barely. The pen trembled against the tablecloth. I noticed. Marcus noticed. And Brooke, too busy checking her phone angle, missed everything. Donna decided it was her turn. She placed both palms flat on the table, a gesture of sincerity she'd used at every church fundraiser, every PTA meeting, every moment she needed people to believe she was the reasonable one. "Marcus, honey," her voice trembled perfectly, "I need you to understand something about our family." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he listened. "Ivy has struggled her whole life. She never finished college. She works with animals." The way she said it, like I cleaned sewers. "She couldn't keep her marriage together. We tried. Lord knows we tried. But we can't let her instability affect Brooke's future, or yours." Each sentence was a blade, delivered with a mother's concerned smile. I sat still, but inside, I was running the math on every word. Never finished college, because Donna had asked me to drop out when Gerald needed knee surgery. "Just 1 semester, honey. We need you home." That semester became 2. Then I got pregnant. Then it was over. Couldn't keep her marriage. Donna had introduced me to Tyler at a church social, pushed the wedding, planned the reception. When he left, she said, "Some women just aren't meant for marriage." Works with animals. I held someone's dying dog last Tuesday at 3 a.m. and called the family myself. But sure, just animals. Marcus set his fork down, quietly. "Brooke told me Ivy chose to leave school," he said. "That's right," Donna said quickly. "She also told me your dad's surgery was minor, outpatient." Donna's mouth opened, closed. Marcus looked at Brooke. "You said it was arthroscopic. No big deal." Brooke's champagne glass was suddenly fascinating. She turned it slowly, bubbles rising. "That's not... It's more complicated than..." "Is it?" Marcus asked. The piano player started a new song. Nobody at our table heard it. Brooke panicked. I could see it, the micro shift in her posture, the way her shoulders pulled back like a cat cornered. She wasn't used to being questioned. She was used to being believed. "Ivy," Brooke abandoned the soft voice. "Just sign the letter. Don't make this ugly." "What happens if I don't?" Brooke picked up her phone, held it up, screen toward me, not even pretending anymore. "I've been recording this entire dinner." Her chin lifted. "If you don't cooperate, I'll send this to Tyler's lawyer. A mother having a public meltdown at a restaurant?" She tilted her head, faux sympathetic. Not a great look in custody court. The table next to us went quiet. Mrs. Patterson's fork hovered midair. I haven't had a meltdown, I said. Brooke smiled. Not yet. But you will. You always do. Gerald tapped the pen on the table twice. Sign the paper, Ivy. Last chance. Donna leaned close enough that I could feel her breath on my ear. Think about Lily. There it was again. Lily's name. The weapon. 3 of them, eyes locked on me, waiting for the crack. The quivering lip. The wet eyes. The footage Brooke needed. Marcus sat frozen. He looked like a man watching a car wreck in slow motion, wanting to intervene but not knowing which wire to cut. I breathed in, held it, let it go. Then I reached under the table, into my bag. My fingers found the manila envelope, smooth, cool. I'd sealed it with a single piece of tape at 4:30 that afternoon, sitting at my kitchen table while Lily drew unicorns in the next room. I brought it up and placed it on the tablecloth, right next to their letter. My hands didn't shake. Gerald stared at the envelope like I'd placed a live grenade beside the shrimp cocktail. What is that? I peeled back the tape. Calm. The way I open supply packages at the clinic, efficient, no drama. You brought your envelope, I said. I brought mine. Donna's hand moved toward her pearls. Brooke lowered her phone an inch. Marcus leaned forward, the first movement he'd made in minutes. 3 years of receipts, I said. I reached inside and pulled out a stack of printed pages. White paper, black ink, my old inkjet's slightly faded font. Not fancy, not legal, just true. The first page, a Venmo transaction history. My name at the top, Gerald Thornton at the bottom. 36 entries in a neat column, each one dated, each one for $1,300. A handful for more. $1,800 in December, $1,500 in March when the furnace broke. Total at the bottom. I'd circled it in red pen. $46,800. I held the page up. Not high, not like a protest sign. Just enough that Marcus could read it across the table. Just enough that Mrs. Patterson, craning her neck one table over, could see numbers. 36 payments, I said, voice level. $46,800. From my checking account to yours. Gerald's mouth opened. No sound came out. Like someone had unplugged his speaker. Donna's pink-rimmed eyes went wide, real this time. Not performance. Pure fear. Brooke set her champagne down so hard the stem wobbled. I placed the page flat on the table, beside their disownment letter. Side by side. Their fiction. My math. Should I keep going? I asked. Because I have 2 more pages. Nobody said no. Nobody said anything at all. I pulled out the second page. Printed text messages, time-stamped, complete with Donna's contact name at the top. Mom. November 15th, I read. 11:47 p.m. From Mom. I glanced at Donna. She looked like she'd swallowed her pearls. Ivy, please, the water bill is $340. Dad won't ask, but we're desperate. Don't tell Brooke, she'll worry. Ivy, Donna started. I turned the page sideways so Marcus could see the screenshot. Date, time, sender, all there. January 3rd, 2:08 a.m. From Mom. Can you send $500 extra this month? Dad needs his prescription refilled. You're the only one I can count on. Donna's hand shot across the table. Give me that. I pulled the page back. Not fast, slow, deliberate, like removing a bandage. March 19th, 1:14 a.m. Ivy, the mortgage company called again. I'm so scared. Please don't tell your father I texted you this late. Gerald turned to Donna. His face had gone from white to gray. You texted her at 1 in the morning? Gerald, I was scared, Every month, I said. For 3 years. At midnight, at 1, at 2 a.m. While Lily was sleeping and I was awake doing the math on whether I could afford both groceries and your electric bill. Marcus pulled the Venmo page toward him. He studied it the way accountants study things, line by line, number by number. Then he looked up at Brooke. You said you were paying their bills. Brooke's face went red, not embarrassed red, caught red. She's exaggerating. I helped too. How much? Marcus asked. Simple, quiet. How much did you send them, Brooke? The piano played on. Brooke didn't answer. She didn't have a number, because the number was 0. I laid down the third page, the last one. A color printout. Brooke's Instagram post from 2 days ago. The photo. Brooke and Donna, arms around each other, grocery bags artfully arranged on the kitchen counter. The caption, in Brooke's signature bubbly font. 3 years of making sure my parents never worry, family first. I placed it next to the Venmo records. This, I said, pointing to the Instagram post, is what she told the world. I moved my finger to the bank records. This is what I actually paid. The 2 pages sat side by side like a split screen. Fiction on the left, $46,800 of truth on the right. Marcus stared at both pages. His expression didn't twist into anger. It settled into something worse. Disappointment. The quiet kind. The kind that means someone has finished recalculating who you are. He turned to Brooke. Which part should I believe? He asked. The Instagram caption? Or 36 bank transfers? Marcus, baby, I can explain. Which part? He repeated. The part where you took credit for your sister's money? Or the part where your parents planned this dinner to cut her off because of it? Brooke's mouth worked. No words came. Donna's tears had started. Real ones now, not the theatrical kind. Her mascara ran in thin black rivers down her cheeks. For the first time in my memory, her tears didn't make me feel guilty. They made me feel tired. Gerald sat rigid. The patriarch who'd walked in owning the table was now staring at his bread plate, like it held instructions for what to do when your whole plan collapses in front of your future son-in-law. Mrs. Patterson didn't even pretend to look away anymore. Marcus folded his napkin, set it beside his plate. Precise. The way he probably closed a ledger at the end of the day. Then he stood. The chair scraped against the tile. A sound small enough to be nothing in any other restaurant. But in the vacuum of table 7, it cracked like a gunshot. Where are you going? Brooke's voice pitched high. The confident, curated Brooke from Instagram was gone. This Brooke sounded 20 years younger and twice as scared. Home, Marcus said. My home. I need to think. Marcus, she's manipulating you. She planned this whole... Marcus held up one hand. Not aggressive, just final. Brooke. He spoke the way you'd speak to someone you were very tired of protecting from themselves. Your sister just showed me 36 months of bank records. You showed me an Instagram caption. He paused. I know which one I believe. He looked at me. One nod. Brief. The kind of respect you give someone who told the truth when it would have been easier to lie. Then he walked toward the door. Unhurried. Past Mrs. Patterson's table. Past the hostess stand. Past the piano player, who transitioned seamlessly into another ballad, as if Marcus Webb's engagement wasn't crumbling in real time. Brooke shoved her chair back. The legs shrieked against the floor. She grabbed her clutch and ran after him, heels clicking rapid fire on the stone, champagne glass abandoned, phone forgotten on the table, still recording, still pointed at my chair. Gerald and Donna and I sat in the wreckage. Their disownment letter lay open. My receipts lay open beside it. The candle flickered between them like a referee unsure which side to call. Nobody in the restaurant moved. Then, a fork clinked. A glass was set down. Life resumed, but not at table 7. I gathered my pages, stacked them, tapped the edges even against the table, the same motion I used to square up patient charts at the clinic. Neat, orderly. I slid them back into the manila envelope. Gerald spoke first. His voice was hoarse, like he'd swallowed sand. You just ruined your sister's engagement. I looked at him, my father, the man who'd introduced me as an afterthought for 32 years. No, I said. Brooke's lies ruined her engagement. I just stopped lying for her. Donna's hands were flat on the table, mascara streaked, pearls rising and falling with shallow breaths. After everything we've done for you, you've done nothing for me, Mom. I said it without heat, without spite, like reading a lab result. I did everything for you, and you rewarded me with this. I pointed at their letter. For your own good. Donna's neat cursive, now smeared with a water ring from Gerald's glass. I stood, picked up my bag, slid the strap over my shoulder. I'm not signing your letter. I'm not begging. And I'm not your secret anymore. Gerald opened his mouth. I kept going. Starting tonight, I'm done sending money. I'm done being invisible. And if either of you contacts Tyler or his mother about Lily, if you say one word about my fitness as a parent, these records become a public conversation, not a private one. I pushed my chair in, quietly, no scraping. I hope you find a way to pay your own bills. I did it for 3 years on a vet tech salary while raising a daughter alone. I'm sure you'll manage. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam anything. I didn't give Brooke's still recording phone a single frame it could use. I just walked away from table 7. The walk from table 7 to the front door was maybe 30 feet. It felt like 30 miles. I passed Mrs. Patterson's table. She looked up at me. Not with pity, not with gossip hunger. With something that looked a lot like a nod, small, firm, the kind you give someone who just did a hard thing without flinching. I kept walking. Near the hostess stand, a hand touched my arm. I flinched, instinct, then saw the face. Dan Holloway, the Magnolia's manager. Tall, red-haired, perpetually worried-looking. 15 months ago, he'd brought his Beagle biscuit into paw print at 11 p.m. on a Saturday. Bloat, the stomach twisted, life-threatening. I stayed 3 extra hours that night. Biscuit pulled through. Dan had sent a card that read, "You saved my best friend." Ivy. Dan kept his voice low. "Your check tonight is on the house." "Dan, you don't have to." He shook his head once. "Biscuit says thank you." I almost lost it right there. Not because of the free dinner, because in a restaurant where my family had just tried to erase me, the man whose dog I'd saved at midnight remembered my name. That's the thing about small towns. They see everything, and sometimes what they see is you. I pushed through the front door. The Georgia night hit me. Warm, humid, smelling like fresh-cut grass from the church lawn across the street. Crickets, a distant dog barking, the ordinary sounds of a world that hadn't ended, even though something inside me had. I made it to my car, sat down, closed the door, and I cried. Not the tears they wanted, the broken, begging kind. These were the other ones. The kind that come when you finally set something heavy down after carrying it for 3 years. Relief. That's what relief tastes like. Salt and silence. I drove to Jamie's house. 9:07 p.m. Porch light on. Cartoon sounds leaking through the screen door. Jamie opened up before I knocked. She had that look. The one where she'd been sitting by the window watching for headlights. That bad? That good, actually. Her left eyebrow climbed, the lie detector engaged, but she let it go. "Mommy!" Lily came barreling down the hallway in her unicorn pajamas, sock feet sliding on the hardwood. She hit my legs like a tiny wrecking ball and wrapped both arms around my knees. "Mommy, Jamie let me eat 2 popsicles." "2? That's very serious." And I watched the one with the fish. Nemo. He finds his dad. "I know, baby." I crouched down and pulled her in. Her hair smelled like kid shampoo and strawberry ice cream. Her arms tightened around my neck with the ferocity of someone who doesn't know the world is complicated yet. Over Lily's shoulder, Jamie mouthed, "You okay?" I nodded. "I'll tell you everything tomorrow, but tonight, I just need to hold her." Jamie squeezed my arm at the door. "Whatever happened at that restaurant, you did the right thing, I can tell." "How?" "Because you're not crying and you're not apologizing. That's new." She wasn't wrong. I buckled Lily into her car seat. She was asleep before I turned onto Elm Street, out cold, head tilted, Mr. Bunny clutched in one fist. I checked the rearview mirror. No headlights following me. I checked my phone at a red light. No texts from Gerald. No calls from Donna. No voicemail from Brooke. For the first time in 3 years, my phone was silent. I drove home in the quiet, and the quiet felt like mine. Sunday morning. Lily ate cereal at the kitchen table and drew a picture of Biscuit. She'd met Dan's beagle once at the clinic and decided they were best friends. I poured coffee, sat across from her, opened my phone. First call, the legal aid office at the county courthouse. A woman named Rebecca answered, voice like warm sandpaper. If my parents contact my ex-husband and make false claims about my fitness as a mother, what are my options? Rebecca didn't blink. I imagine she hears variations of this question every Monday. Document everything. Save texts, voicemails, any communication. If it escalates to harassment, you can petition for a protective order. Do you have evidence of the threats? My sister recorded the dinner where they said it. A pause. She recorded herself making threats? She recorded me, but she got them too. Keep copies of everything. If your ex files any motion based on their claims, those recordings and financial records will speak for themselves. I thanked her, hung up, wrote down her name and number on the notepad by the fridge, the one Lily had decorated with dinosaur stickers. Second action. I opened Venmo, found the recurring payment to Gerald Thornton. 36 months of automatic transfers stared back at me. I pressed cancel. One tap. The thing that had cost me $46,000, 3 years of ramen dinners, and every pair of new jeans, gone in one tap. Third action. One text message. To Gerald. I love you both, but I will not be used anymore. Do not contact Tyler. Do not contact me unless it's to apologize, a real one. I set the phone face down on the table. Lily looked up from her drawing. Mommy, do beagles like cereal? Probably, baby, but it's not good for them. Oh, like too much candy? Exactly like that. I want to step out of the story for a second. After I sent that text, I sat at the kitchen table staring at my phone for 20 minutes, waiting, watching the screen. Nothing. No reply from Gerald, no reply from Donna, just Lily humming and coloring across from me. And honestly, I don't know if the silence hurt more or less than the dinner. Here's what I keep going back and forth on, and I want your take. Do you think my parents were always like this? Were they always the kind of people who'd use a grandchild as leverage? Or did the money pressure and Brooke's wedding change them into something they weren't before? Because some nights I think I lost them at that restaurant, and other nights I think I never had them to begin with. Drop your honest opinion in the comments. I read every single one, and your perspectives help me more than you know. All right, let me tell you what happened in the weeks after that dinner. Crestwood is a small town with a long memory. I didn't say a word to anyone. I didn't have to. Mrs. Patterson went to her Tuesday Bible study. By Wednesday afternoon, the story had migrated from the Baptist church to the hair salon on Main to the checkout line at Garner's Market. I know because Jamie texted me a play-by-play with the precision of a war correspondent. Linda at the salon says Donna's been sick all week. Tuesday. Roy from the VFW asked Gerald at coffee if his daughter really paid his bills for 3 years. Gerald left before finishing his cup. Thursday. Brooke deleted her Instagram. Friday. Donna didn't show up at the flower shop for 4 days. When she returned, her co-worker Helen, who'd seen the Instagram post, who'd liked it, who'd commented, "Mother-daughter goals," looked at her across the arrangement counter. Donna, I had no idea Ivy was the one helping you. You must be so grateful. Donna didn't answer. She trimmed the stems of a dozen roses and said nothing for the rest of the shift. Gerald tried to hold his ground. He went to his usual booth at Clyde's Diner for Saturday breakfast. 2 men he'd known for 20 years sat down across from him. Gerald, heard your oldest has been supporting you folks for a while now. That's a good kid you raised. Gerald put a 5 on the table and walked out with his eggs untouched. I didn't orchestrate any of this. That's the thing about truth in a small town. You don't have to broadcast it. You just have to say it once, in front of the right person, and let the zip code do the rest. Mrs. Patterson was the right person. Table 5 was the right seat. Marcus didn't break the engagement immediately. From what I pieced together later, through Jamie, through small-town gravity, he gave Brooke a chance. He sat her down in his apartment the morning after and asked her to explain. Everything. The Instagram posts, the money, the lies. Brooke tried the playbook that had always worked. She cried. She said she was going to pay them back eventually. She said she didn't mean for it to go this far. She said I had twisted things. Marcus listened. He's that kind of man, the kind who lets you finish. Then he asked one question. How much of your own money did you send your parents, Brooke? Total. In 3 years. She couldn't answer. Because the answer was a number you don't need a CPA to calculate. 0. 3 weeks later, Marcus returned the engagement ring. No social media announcement, no public scene, just a quiet conversation in his apartment, and then it was over. Brooke moved back into our parents' guest room, the same room she'd lived in rent-free while I sent $1,300 a month. Except now, the $1,300 wasn't coming. Gerald and Donna faced reality that first month like a cold shower. The electric bill, the water bill, Gerald's prescription, a blood pressure medication that cost $94 a month without insurance. The furnace that wheezed every time the temperature dropped below 50. Donna called me 2 weeks after the dinner. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Ivy, we need to talk. 37 seconds. No apology. No, I'm sorry. No, I shouldn't have said what I said about Lily. Just, we need to talk. Translation, we need money. I deleted the voicemail, then I deleted it from the deleted folder. Some doors close clean. 1 month after the dinner, a Tuesday. I was washing dishes while Lily practiced writing her name at the table, 5 letters, tongue out, gripping the pencil like it owed her money. My phone rang. Gerald. I dried my hands, looked at the screen for 3 rings, then I picked up. Ivy. His voice was different, smaller, like the volume knob had been turned down from the inside. Dad? I'm not calling to apologize. Okay. A long breath, the kind that carries weight. The power's going to be shut off Friday. I know. Can you? No. Silence. Not the aggressive kind from the restaurant. The tired kind. The kind that lives in a house where the lights might go out. Then Gerald said something I never expected. You were always the strong one, Ivy. I just didn't want to admit it. I leaned against the counter, closed my eyes. That's not an apology, Dad. I know. Saying I'm strong doesn't undo what you did. It doesn't undo the letter or the threats or Mom telling me she'd call Tyler. It doesn't undo 3 years of taking my money and pretending it was Brooke's. I know, he said again, quieter. When you're ready to really apologize, not because you need money, not because the power's out, but because you're genuinely sorry for what you did to your daughter at that table, call me again. And if I can't, then I guess we'll both know where we stand. I hung up, set the phone on the counter, pressed my palms flat on the cold tile and breathed. Lily looked up. Was that Grandpa? Yeah, baby. Is he okay? I looked at her. Those big eyes. No agenda behind them. Just love. He's figuring things out, I said. It wasn't a lie. I just didn't know if it was true yet. 3 months after the dinner at the Magnolia. I still live above the hardware store. Still work at Paw Print. Still wear scrubs that smell like antiseptic and Labrador. Nothing about my life looks dramatically different from the outside. But the math changed. $1,300 a month. My money now. Lily's money. I opened a savings account at Crestwood Community Credit Union in her name. College fund. The starting balance was embarrassing. But it exists. That's what matters. Lily eats ice cream after school on Fridays now. 1 scoop. Strawberry. She thinks it's the most extravagant thing in the world. She might be right. I joined a single parents support group at the community center on Oak Street. Wednesday evenings. 7 people in folding chairs, sharing the specific exhaustion of doing everything alone. It's not glamorous. But when someone says I get it and means it, the room gets a little lighter. Jamie noticed first. You look different, she said over coffee at her kitchen table. Different how? I don't know. Taller? I'm 5'6", same as always. Taller, she repeated. And you sleep now. I can tell. She was right. No more 2 a.m. texts from Donna. No more lying awake calculating whether I could cover Gerald's prescription and Lily's field trip in the same week. The midnight math was over. Marcus texted me once. Brief, respectful, no small talk, no flirting. Thank you for being honest that night. I hope Lily knows how lucky she is. I typed back, she will. That was it. No love story, no rescue arc, just 2 adults who respected each other enough to be honest and then move on. Some stories don't end with a new beginning. They end with a clearing. Space where there used to be weight. This was my clearing. I'm going to talk to you directly now. Not as Ivy in the story, as Ivy right here today. I didn't tell you all of this so you'd hate my parents. They're not monsters. They're people. Flawed, scared, proud people who chose image over integrity and lost both. Gerald can't pay his electric bill. Donna lost her standing at the flower shop and the church. Brooke lost the man she was going to marry. Those aren't things I celebrate. They're consequences they built for themselves, brick by brick, lie by lie. I told you this because somewhere out there someone listening is the Ivy in their family. The one who sends money no one acknowledges. The one who gives up vacations and new clothes and Friday night dinners so someone else's lights stay on. The one who gets introduced last, thanked never, and blamed first. If that's you, hear me. You are allowed to stop. Boundaries aren't punishment. They aren't selfishness. They aren't proof that you don't love your family. Boundaries are you saying, I love you, but I love myself enough to stop burning so you can stay warm. I know that's terrifying. I know the guilt feels like a physical thing, like a hand on your chest. I know because I felt it at table 7 with a pen in front of me and my mother's perfume in the air. But I also know what the other side feels like. It feels like driving home with your daughter asleep in the back seat and the phone finally, mercifully silent. Lily drew a picture last week. 2 people. Her and me. Big yellow sun in the corner. That's our family, she said. I looked at it for a long time. Yeah, I said. That's enough. It is. That's where I'll leave it. If this story meant something to you, if you've been the one holding the family together while they handed you the bill and the blame, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I've got a story in the description that I think will hit just as close. And if you've had your own envelope moment, that one time you stopped folding and finally stood up, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. And honestly, your stories are braver than mine. Every time. Thank you for staying until the end. It means more than you know. I'll see you in the next one. We already told everyone you uninvited us, my mother said, her voice perfectly steady. Don't make us look like liars, Wendy. That was 6 weeks before my wedding. 6 weeks before 200 guests would sit in white folding chairs on the lawn of a farmhouse I'd paid for with double shifts and a sold car. 6 weeks before my husband stood up at our reception, asked for the projector, and played something that turned my mother's face the color of ash. I didn't plan a confrontation. I planned a wedding. But sometimes the truth picks its own schedule. What Derek showed on that screen, I still can't believe my parents thought no one would ever find out. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop where you're watching from and your local time in the comments. I love reading those. I'm Wendy. I'm 29. I'm a nurse in a small town in Georgia. Now let me take you back to March, the night Derek proposed, and everything started to unravel. Derek asked me on the porch of his mother's farmhouse, one knee, a ring he'd saved 11 months for, fireflies blinking across the pasture like tiny witnesses. I said yes before he finished the sentence. I called my parents 20 minutes later. My hands were still shaking. My mother picked up on the second ring. I told her. She said congratulations, flat, like reading a receipt, then asked the date. September 14th, I said. It's the only Saturday the venue has left. Silence. Long enough for me to hear the kitchen faucet running in the background. That's Courtney's Bali launch week, you know that. I did know. My younger sister had been posting countdowns on Instagram for 2 months. A luxury wellness retreat, 500,000 followers watching. Brand deal, content calendar, the whole production. Mom, the venue won't hold the date. The deposit's already down. Your sister has 500,000 people waiting for that trip. She paused. You have, what, maybe 200 guests? I wish I could tell you that surprised me. It didn't. When I graduated nursing school, my parents arrived 45 minutes late because they were driving Courtney to a casting call in Atlanta. When I made honor roll in 10th grade, I taped the certificate on the fridge next to Courtney's pageant photos. It was gone by morning. I always told myself it wasn't personal. Courtney was the bright one, the visible one. I was the reliable one. Reliable doesn't need applause. I'll talk to your father, my mother said. But Wendy, be realistic. She hung up. I sat on that porch with a ring on my finger and a knot in my stomach, and I thought, maybe this time, just this once, they'll choose me. They didn't. My father called that evening. 8:17 p.m. I remember because I was standing at the stove making pasta, and the timer on my phone read 8:17 when his name flashed across the screen. Derek was at the kitchen table. I put the call on speaker. Looking back, I'm glad I did. A witness matters. I'm going to say this once, my father said. His voice had that low, controlled register he uses when he believes the conversation is already over. Move the date, or your mother and I won't be there. Dad, the deposit is non-refundable. Then you'll lose it. That's what happens when you don't think about your family. I looked at Derek. He reached across the table and took my hand. He didn't squeeze it. He just held it. Steady, the way you hold something you're not going to let go of. I'm not moving it, Dad. 3 seconds of nothing. Then the line went dead. I stood there holding the phone, steam rising from the pot behind me. Derek said, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah," which was a lie. But it was the kind of lie that gets you through the next 10 minutes so you can eat dinner and pretend the floor isn't tilting. My father has run our family the way he runs his hardware store. Inventory in, inventory out. No backtalk from the shelves. You do what Harold Foster says, or Harold Foster stops talking to you. I'd watched him freeze out his own brother for 2 Thanksgivings over a property line dispute. I knew exactly what "won't be there" meant. It wasn't a threat. It was a policy. I just didn't know yet how far that policy would reach. 10 days later, the caterer called. "Hi, this is Brenda from Magnolia Table. I'm calling because Diane Foster contacted us to cancel the deposit on her card. We need a new payment method within 10 days or we release your date." I was in the break room at the hospital, still in scrubs, coffee going cold in my hand. "She canceled it?" "Yes, ma'am, this morning." I called the florist next. Same story. Diane had phoned in, polite as Sunday morning, and pulled both deposits. The photographer was still intact. That one was on my card. Everything else was gone. $14,000. Vanished with 2 phone calls. That night, I sat on our kitchen floor with a legal pad and a calculator. Savings account, $6,200. Wedding in 14 weeks. Deficit, roughly $8,000. Derek sat down beside me, back against the cabinet, shoulder touching mine. "We sell the Civic," I said. He didn't argue. We listed my 2011 Honda the next morning. Got $4,800 from a kid at the community college. I picked up 3 extra night shifts a week on top of my regular rotation. 12-hour shifts, then home to address invitations at the kitchen table until my handwriting went crooked. Derek watched me lick an envelope at 2 a.m. and said, "Let me run your credit report. We need it for the house loan anyway." I said sure, barely listening. I was calculating how many overtime hours it would take to cover the new caterer who charged by the head instead of the platter. He opened his laptop. I sealed another envelope. When I looked up 20 minutes later, Derek was staring at the screen and he hadn't moved. Not even his fingers, just frozen. "What?" I said. He didn't answer right away. Before Derek could explain what he'd found, my phone started buzzing. Not calls, texts, one after another, lighting up the screen like a slot machine nobody asked to play. "Aunt Carol, heard you told your parents not to come? That's cold, Wendy." "Uncle Gene, your mom is heartbroken. Call her." A cousin I hadn't spoken to since Thanksgiving. "Family is forever. Don't do this." I scrolled through 11 messages in 4 minutes. Every single one carried the same story. That I had uninvited my own parents from my wedding. That I was being cruel. That Diane was devastated. I called Aunt Patty. She's my mother's younger sister, the only person in our family who ever looked me in the eye and said, "I see what they're doing." She picked up on the first ring. "They told everyone it was you," Patty said. No preamble. "Harold called Jean yesterday. Diane posted in the family group chat. Not directly, you know how she does it. Just a sad emoji and, 'Please pray for our family.' Classic." "What exactly did they say?" "That you banned them. And that Derek is..." Her words. isolating you from the people who love you. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. 40-plus relatives now believed I was an ungrateful daughter being controlled by her fiancé. My father had weaponized Christmas dinners and birthday cards. My mother had weaponized sympathy. Patty, none of that is true. I know who you are, sweetheart. I'll be at that wedding. I hung up and stared at the ceiling. The damage was already spreading, root deep, through every branch of the family tree, and I didn't know yet that my mother was about to take it one step further, to someone I actually cared about impressing. 2 days later, Derek came home from his mother's house looking like someone had rearranged the furniture inside his chest. "My mom got a phone call," he said. He sat across from me at the table, hands flat, the way he does when he's choosing words carefully. "A woman named Diane called her, told her you have emotional instability, said she should, quote, keep an eye on you." The room tilted. Not dramatically, just a slow, quiet tilt, like a picture frame sliding off a nail. My mother had called Ruth Calloway, my future mother-in-law, a woman I'd only known 8 months, a woman whose respect I was still earning, and Diane had called her to plant a seed that I was broken. Canceling the deposits, I could handle. Turning the relatives against me, I could stomach. But calling Derek's mother to sabotage the only new family I was building, that was different. That wasn't punishment. That was demolition. "What did your mom say?" I asked. She said, "I've spent 30 years in a courtroom. I know what manipulation sounds like." Ruth Calloway had worked as a clerk at the county courthouse until she retired. She'd sat through custody battles, fraud hearings, protection orders. She didn't rattle. "She recorded the call," Derek said. "Georgia's a one-party consent state. She said if we ever need it, it's ours." I sat with that for a long time. Then I said the truest thing I'd said in weeks. "I'm not fighting them, Derek. I'm just done explaining myself." From that point forward, all communication with my parents went through text, written record only. I didn't block them. I didn't yell. I simply stopped performing the role of the grateful daughter, and I didn't invite them back. Courtney FaceTimed me on a Tuesday night. She was in her studio apartment, ring light glowing behind her, lashes on, content ready even at 9 p.m. Her whole life was a set, and she never stepped off it. Just move it. It's one day. It's my wedding. And it's my career. Since when does your career outrank my marriage? She tilted her head the way she does when she thinks she's being patient with someone slower. Since it pays for Mom and Dad's new roof. That stopped me. I didn't know Courtney was funding anything for our parents. Or, more accurately, I didn't know our parents were telling Courtney she was funding them. What roof? Dad said the estimate was $12,000. I covered half, brand money. She shrugged like it was nothing, like writing a $6,000 check to your parents at 25 was just the price of being the favorite. "Courtney, listen to me. I'm not moving the date." "Then you're going to lose them." "I already lost them. A long time ago." She blinked. For half a second something cracked behind the ring light. A flicker of recognition, maybe guilt. Then it sealed shut. "Just do what they want, Wen. It's easier." "Easier for who?" She ended the call. I stood in the kitchen holding my phone and something Courtney said kept circling, since it pays for Mom and Dad's new roof. Courtney thought she was the family benefactor. She had no idea, or maybe she did, that my parents had other funding sources with my name on them. When Derek finished pulling my full credit report the next morning, we found out exactly where the roof money really came from. Before I could process what Derek found, my father went nuclear. Harold Foster sent a message to the family group chat. 32 people, 3 generations, from Aunt Patty to my 17-year-old cousin in Jacksonville. "Diane and I will not attend Wendy's wedding. She has made it clear that our family traditions don't matter to her. We hope she'll come around. Please respect our decision and give us privacy during this painful time." Painful time. Like he was the one selling his car and picking up night shifts. The responses piled up. "Not for me, for them. So sorry, Harold. Praying for you both. She'll regret this one day." An aunt I hadn't seen since 2019 sent me a private message. "Shame on you, Wendy." An uncle wrote, "Your parents gave you everything. Everything. They gave Courtney everything. They gave me a social security number to borrow against, but I didn't know that part yet, not fully. I turned off my phone. I was sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot. My shift started in 20 minutes. The sky was that deep Georgia purple it gets right before it goes black. Derek texted on the old phone, the one I kept for emergencies. Come home. We need to talk about what I found. I didn't go home. I went into my shift, because rent doesn't care about family drama, and the ER doesn't pause for heartbreak. I coded 3 patients that night, held a woman's hand while we waited for her husband to arrive, changed my gloves 19 times. 12 hours later, I walked through our front door. Derek was sitting at the kitchen table with a manila folder, a legal pad, and a look I'd never seen on his face before, something between fury and math. Derek pushed the folder across the table. 3 credit cards, he said. All in your name. Capital One. Discover. City. I opened the folder. 3 account summaries. My name, my social security number, my parents' home address, the one I'd moved out of 7 years ago. Total outstanding balance, $47,300. I turned the pages slowly. Each statement was a map of someone else's life. A round-trip flight to Tulum, a 5-night stay at a resort in the Maldives, a $1,400 camera lens from B&H Photo, $3,000 at Nordstrom in a single afternoon. Every transaction matched. Tulum. Courtney posted poolside photos in March. The Maldives, her most liked reel ever in November. The camera lens, she'd unboxed it on her story with the caption "Investing in my craft." They opened the first one when you were 19, Derek said. He'd already cross-referenced the dates. Same day you signed the paperwork for your nursing school loan. Your dad co-signed that loan. He had every piece of information he needed. I stared at the paper. My father had taken the documents I handed him in trust, my social security card, my proof of enrollment, my signature on a student loan application, and used them to open a credit line in my name. Then he did it again. And again. That's my parents, I said. It came out quiet. Not disbelief. Recognition. The slow, sick click of something finally making sense. Derek's jaw was tight. Wendy, that's a federal crime. I didn't answer. I just kept looking at the numbers. $47,000 of debt I'd never spent a cent of, sitting on my credit like a bruise I couldn't see. My parents hadn't just boycotted my wedding, they'd been borrowing against my future for 10 years. The next evening, Ruth Calloway came to our house. She didn't bring casserole or small talk. She brought her phone and a Ziploc bag with a USB drive inside it, because Ruth Calloway is the kind of woman who backs things up. I saved the recording, she said, settling into the chair at our kitchen table like she'd done this 100 times at the courthouse. The full call, 4 minutes, 37 seconds. She pressed play. My mother's voice filled the kitchen. Warm, concerned, perfectly constructed. The voice she uses at church potlucks and PTA meetings. The voice that makes people lean in and believe her. Wendy has always been difficult. Derek seems like a good man, but I worry he doesn't see it yet. She pushes people away. I just want someone in his life to watch for signs. Signs. Like I was a forecast, something to prepare for and protect against. Ruth stopped the recording. She called me to plant a seed that my future daughter-in-law is unstable. I've sat in courtrooms for 30 years. I know what manipulation sounds like. Derek's hand found mine under the table. Can I have a copy? I said. Ruth slid the USB across the table. Already on it. I didn't cry. I wanted to. Not from sadness, but from the particular kind of exhaustion that comes when someone you love confirms they never loved you the same way back. I had the credit report. I had the recording. I didn't know what I'd do with them yet, but I knew I wasn't throwing them away. You're not difficult, Wendy, Ruth said on her way out, one hand on the doorframe. You're inconvenient to people who need you to be small. I've never forgotten that sentence. I threw myself into the wedding like it was a 12-hour trauma shift. Head down, hands moving, no time for feelings. Derek and I made centerpieces from mason jars and wildflowers from the roadside stand on Route 15. $3 a bunch. We wrapped the jars in twine at the kitchen table every night after my shifts, assembly line style, while a true crime podcast played in the background because neither of us could handle silence. Ruth altered her own wedding dress for me. Ivory lace, tea-length, a little yellowed at the hem. She sat at her sewing machine for 4 evenings straight. When I tried it on and it fit, almost perfectly, just slightly loose at the waist, she pinned it and said, "You'll grow into it. Every good marriage adds a few pounds." Patty called a friend who ran a flower shop 2 towns over. Wholesale rate, half price. We moved the reception from the cancelled restaurant to the Calloway family farm, the same pasture where Derek proposed. String lights from the barn supply store, rented tables, a borrowed sound system from Derek's college roommate. The RSVPs came in steady, 200 guests, most from Derek's side, his co-workers, our friends. My side of the aisle, Patty. A handful of nursing school classmates. That was it. My father called one last time, 13 days before the wedding. "Last chance, Wendy. Move the date and we'll forget this happened." "There's nothing to forget, Dad. I'll save you a seat in case you change your mind." He hung up. Patty texted me that night. "Your mom asked me not to come. I told her I'm an adult." I set the phone down, picked up a mason jar, and started wrapping twine. 14 jars to go, 13 days. I could do the math. I kept asking myself, why were my parents willing to miss their own daughter's wedding over a Bali trip? Was it really just about Courtney, or was there something else they were protecting, something that would fall apart if I stopped playing my role? Now I know the answer, but back then, I was still guessing. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace in your family and standing up for what's right? Tell me in the comments. September 14th, 71 degrees. Not a cloud. I woke up at 5:30 because my body doesn't know how to sleep past a shift alarm. The farmhouse was already lit gold. Ruth had been up since 4 arranging chairs on the lawn. I checked my phone. No messages from Harold, none from Diane, nothing from Courtney. Just a text from Patty. On my way, wearing waterproof mascara, no promises. I put on the dress in the upstairs bedroom that used to be Derek's when he was a kid. There were still model airplanes on the shelf. The lace sat cool against my skin. Ruth's stitches held perfect. Patty arrived at 9. She walked in, saw me, and her eyes went red instantly. She pressed both hands over her mouth. "I'm sorry they're not here," she whispered. "Don't be. You're here." She hugged me so tight the lace creaked. At 10 o'clock, the ceremony started. 200 people in white folding chairs on a sloped green pasture, wildflower centerpieces lining the aisle, the Calloway barn behind us like a cathedral with a tin roof. There was no one to walk me down the aisle. No father of the bride, no arm to hold, so I walked alone. I've walked into trauma bays with blood on the floor. I've told families their person didn't make it. I've held my composure through things that would flatten most people. But walking down that aisle by myself, 200 faces turning toward me, knowing my own parents chose a content calendar over this moment, that was the longest 60 feet of my life. Derek stood at the end. His eyes were wet. His hands were steady. I reached him. He took my hand. And I didn't look back. The ceremony was beautiful. I need to say that. Because what came after was loud, and the quiet parts deserve to be remembered too. Derek's best man read a passage. Patty held the rings. The officiant, a retired pastor from Ruth's church, spoke about choosing people who choose you back, and I watched 4 women in the second row reach for tissues at the same time. But I could hear the whispers. During the vows, during the pauses between words, little currents running through the crowd. "Where are her parents?" I heard she kicked them out. That's not what Diane told me. My co-worker Linda, head nurse, 23 years on the floor, afraid of absolutely nothing, leaned in during the ring exchange and squeezed my elbow. "Don't listen. You're radiant." I held it together, through the vows, through the kiss, through the applause. I held it together when Derek said, "I choose you, not because no one else would, because no one else could." I held it together when 200 people stood up and clapped and the sun broke wide open across the pasture like God was showing off. I held it together. The ceremony ended. People hugged us. Someone's kid threw wildflowers that stuck in my hair. Derek's college roommate started the music, a playlist he'd made the night before, half country, half Motown, completely wrong and completely right. We moved to the reception area. Long wood tables under the string lights, catered barbecue from a place in Macon that owed Derek a favor, mason jar centerpieces catching the late afternoon glow. 200 guests. Paper napkins. Real love. The ceremony was perfect. The reception was where everything changed. I saw the headlights first. A silver Buick rolling slow up the gravel drive. Deliberate. The way you'd pull into a stage entrance if you wanted the audience to notice. My father stepped out in a charcoal vest and pressed slacks. My mother followed in a floral dress and fresh lipstick. Camera ready, the way she always is when she knows people are watching. Diane spotted me across the lawn and her face broke into a wide, trembling smile. She walked straight toward me, arms open, voice pitched to Carrie. "Oh, sweetheart, we couldn't miss our baby's big day!" She hugged me before I could move. Her perfume hit my nose. The same Estee Lauder she's worn since I was 12, and for one terrible second, my body almost softened into it. Harold shook Derek's hand with both of his. "Welcome to the family, son." Loud, warm, performed for the 8 nearest tables. People clapped. Someone at table 4 said, "See? They came after all." A woman I didn't recognize dabbed her eyes. The prodigal parents, returning just in time. What a beautiful story. I stood frozen. My bouquet hand had gone white knuckle around the stems. I looked at Derek. He met my eyes. His jaw was set, but his gaze was calm. The same look he gets when he's finished a spreadsheet and the numbers finally make sense. He gave me the smallest nod, almost imperceptible. The kind of nod that means, I know, and I'm ready. Because here's the thing my parents didn't account for. They showed up expecting to rewrite the ending. Smiling, hugging, performing. They thought they'd won. They had no idea Derek had brought a projector. The toasts started at golden hour. Derek's best man went first. Funny, short, a story about a fishing trip that got the crowd laughing. Then Ruth said a few words about the kind of woman she'd always hoped her son would find. She looked right at me when she said it, and I almost broke. Then Derek stood up. He'd kept his jacket off all night, sleeves rolled to the elbows. He looked relaxed, but I knew better. I'd seen him prep for bank audits with less tension in his shoulders. He took the microphone from the best man and smiled at the crowd. "I want to thank everyone for being here, especially the people who showed up when it wasn't easy." A murmur. A few people glanced at Harold and Diane, who were seated at a table near the back. Diane with her ankles crossed, Harold with one arm draped over his chair, both of them wearing the satisfied expressions of parents who'd made a grand entrance. "I also want to talk about honesty," Derek said, "because Wendy deserves that." The murmur shifted. Glasses stopped clinking. "Some of you received messages saying Wendy uninvited her parents tonight. That's not what happened." Diane's smile flickered. Harold and Diane chose to boycott this wedding. Their word was teach her humility. Because Wendy refused to move our date for Courtney's Bali trip. Whispers, quick ones, the kind that moved through a room like wind through tall grass. Harold pushed his chair back and stood. "That's enough, son." Derek didn't flinch. "I'm not your son, Harold, and I'm not done." 200 people went still. The music had stopped. Even the cicadas seemed to pause. Diane reached for Harold's arm. He shook her off. Derek set his phone on the table next to the Bluetooth speaker. 6 weeks ago, Diane called my mother. She told her that Wendy is emotionally unstable, that she pushes people away, that someone in my family should watch for signs. He looked at Diane. She had gone very still, the way a deer freezes in headlights right before it decides which way to run. My mother recorded the call. He pressed play. My mother's voice came through the speaker, clear as a church bell and twice as cold. "Wendy has always been difficult. Derek seems like a good man, but I worry he doesn't see it yet. She pushes people away. I just want someone in his life to watch for signs." 200 people heard it. Every word. In my mother's own careful, concerned, rehearsed tone, the one that sounds like love, if you don't know what love actually sounds like. Diane shot to her feet. "That's taken out of context." Ruth Calloway stood up from table 1, 63 years old, steel gray hair pinned back, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She didn't raise her voice. She never has to. I played the entire recording for my pastor, Ruth said. He said the same thing I did. It's manipulation. The crowd wasn't whispering anymore. They were silent. The kind of silence that has weight. Patty was crying at her seat, one hand pressed flat against the table, the other covering her mouth. She'd known her sister was cruel. She hadn't known the depth. Harold grabbed Diane's elbow. We're leaving. Derek held the microphone steady. You can leave. But there's one more thing your family needs to hear. Harold stopped walking. Derek's college roommate, the one who'd set up the sound system, pulled the white sheet tight between two barn posts. The borrowed projector hummed to life. Numbers filled the screen. 3 credit card accounts. My name at the top of each one. Below it, transaction after transaction, highlighted in yellow. Derek spoke without looking at his notes. He didn't need them. He'd memorized every line. 3 credit cards. Opened in Wendy's name without her knowledge or consent. Total balance, $47,300. Gasps. Real ones, the kind you feel in your ribcage. None of this debt is hers. Every transaction matches Courtney Foster's social media posts. He pointed to the screen. Resort in Tulum, March, business class to the Maldives, November, camera equipment, Nordstrom. All charged to accounts Wendy never opened. Uncle Gene stood up halfway, then sat back down. Aunt Carol put a hand over her mouth. The woman who'd dabbed her eyes when Harold arrived now looked like she'd swallowed something sharp. Harold's voice cut through the silence. That's family business. Derek turned to face him directly. It's federal fraud. Diane was crying now, not the delicate, sympathetic kind she'd used on the phone with Ruth. This was different, mascara-streaked, involuntary. Harold grabbed Diane's arm and pulled her toward the gravel drive. The aunt who'd texted me, shame on you, Carol, stood up and followed them, but not to comfort. Harold, she said, is this true? He didn't answer. He didn't look back. The Buick doors slammed, the engine turned, gravel popped under the tires as they pulled away. I stood next to Derek, my hand on his arm, and said the only thing that mattered. I didn't plan this, but I'm done being the version of me that makes their lies easier to believe. We danced after they left. Derek took my hand, and we danced on the grass in borrowed string lights, while 200 people who now knew the truth clapped and cheered, and someone turned the Motown back on. I'm not a good dancer. Neither is Derek. We swayed and stepped on each other's feet and laughed, and for 5 minutes the night belonged to us the way it was supposed to from the beginning. The next morning it was Monday, and Monday meant paperwork. I filed an identity theft report with the FTC. Derek drove me to the county sheriff's office, where I filed a second report, local jurisdiction, paper trail, case number. A deputy with kind eyes and a notepad took my statement for 40 minutes. I called all 3 credit card companies, froze the accounts, initiated formal disputes. Derek walked me through each one. He does this for clients at the bank, untangling credit messes, verifying signatures. This time the client was his wife. Every card had been opened when I was under 21. None carried my signature. I changed my social security suffix, closed every account that still listed my parents' address, set up fraud alerts with all 3 bureaus. I did not call Harold. I did not text Diane. I did not explain, justify, or apologize. I didn't file the report to punish them, I told Derek that night. We were on the porch, drinking sweet tea, cicadas screaming in the dark. I filed it because $47,000 of debt wasn't mine. He nodded. And because if I didn't, they'd do it again. Maybe not to me. Maybe to Courtney's kids someday. He reached over and took my hand. We sat there until the tea was warm and the stars were out. Silence never felt so clean. Courtney called from Bali 3 days later. I was folding laundry. Her name flashed on the screen and I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the part of me that still remembered braiding her hair when she was 6. The Discover card got declined at the hotel, she said. Her voice was thin. No ring-light confidence, just panic. What did you do? I froze my accounts. My name, my credit, my decision. You're ruining everything. I have a brand deal. The resort is part of the content package. I need that card for 3 more days. Fund it yourself. You're 25. Silence. Then a sound I hadn't heard from Courtney in years. A real sob. Not the kind she performs for stories. She hung up. I set the phone on the dresser and went back to folding towels. Over the next week, the fallout hit Courtney's feed like weather. The luxury Bali content just stopped. No more infinity pool shots. No more rooftop cocktails at sunset. She posted a photo from a budget hostel with the caption, "Keeping it real," and her followers noticed. Comments started blooming under her posts. "Didn't your sister just get married? Heard your parents weren't there? T, why did you skip your own sister's wedding for a vacation? Girl, the math isn't mathing." Courtney didn't respond to any of them. She privated her account for 2 days, then came back with a generic boundaries post that everyone saw right through. I watched from a distance. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt the way you feel when you watch a building you used to live in get condemned. Relief and grief, tangled up so tight you can't separate them. Diane called twice. I sent both to voicemail. The family rearranged itself in the weeks that followed. Slowly. The way tectonic plates shift, invisible at first, then suddenly everything's in a different place. Uncle Gene called me on a Wednesday evening. Gene is Harold's older brother. 64, retired electrician, never missed a foster family reunion in his life. He'd been one of the first to text me. "Your parents gave you everything. I owe you an apology," he said. No preamble, no small talk. "I believed your dad. I shouldn't have." "Thank you, Uncle Gene. He's my brother, and I love him, but what I saw on that screen, I can't unsee it." Aunt Carol, the one who texted "shame on you," mailed me a card. Inside, a handwritten note and $200 cash. "For your new start. I'm sorry I didn't ask your side first." The family group chat reorganized. Gene removed Harold and Diane himself. 30 people watched it happen in real time. His message was short. "Until you explain the credit cards, I don't think you should be here." No one objected. At church on Sunday, Ruth told me the pastor's sermon had been about honesty within families. She said Harold and Diane were not in attendance. They hadn't been for 3 weeks running. In a small town in Georgia, 3 missed Sundays is a statement. People notice. People talk. The Fosters, who had built their reputation on being pillars, on Diane's deviled eggs at every potluck and Harold's handshake at every fundraiser, were suddenly absent. And in a place where absence speaks louder than words, the silence around them grew thick. I didn't orchestrate any of it. The truth did the work. I just stopped covering for them. The brand deal collapsed on day 11. Courtney's Bali sponsor, a wellness supplement company, pulled the $30,000 contract after their PR team found the comment section. Someone had screenshot the projector image from the wedding. A guest had posted a shaky phone video on their private Facebook. Small towns are leaky that way. And it had made its way into a Reddit thread about family drama. 40,000 followers unfollowed Courtney in 2 weeks. Her engagement rate cratered. The algorithm, which had once handed her reach like candy, now buried her posts beneath cooking tutorials and cat videos. She flew home from Bali early, economy seat, middle row. I know because Patty saw the flight itinerary. Courtney texted Diane begging for a pickup at Hartsfield. Back home, reality set in. Every credit card Courtney had been using, for flights, hotels, content equipment, the daily seamless order that fueled her lifestyle, was in my name. All frozen, all disputed. She had no personal savings, no backup card. Her checking account held $1,100. I didn't celebrate. There's no satisfaction in watching your little sister Google how to open a bank account at 25. That's not a win. That's the receipt for a decade of someone else's parenting failure. Harold and Diane couldn't help her either. Without the cards in my name, their cash flow tightened overnight. The new roof Courtney had supposedly funded? Never happened. The money had gone to Courtney's expenses, funneled through accounts bearing my name, laundered through the fiction that it was family money being shared. The math was simple once you stripped the performance away. My parents had been running their younger daughter's lifestyle on their older daughter's credit. And now the credit was gone. Courtney called one more time, a Thursday, late, almost 11 p.m. Her voice was different, stripped down, no affect, no performance, no strategy, just tired. "I knew about the cards," she said. I sat on the edge of the bed. Derek was already asleep. I didn't wake him. Not all of them, she continued. But the first one, the capital one. I was there when Dad opened it. I was 15. He said it was for emergencies. I asked whose name it was in, and he said yours, and I asked why, and he said, because Wendy doesn't need the credit right now. I thought that was normal. It wasn't normal, Courtney. I know that now. We sat in the silence for a long time. Not the hostile kind. The kind that happens when two people are standing in the same wreckage and neither knows where to step. I'm not calling to ask you to drop the report, she said. I know you won't. I'm calling because... I don't know. Because you're my sister and I used your name to pay for a life I didn't earn, and I don't know how to sit with that. I closed my eyes. I'm not ready to forgive you, I said. Maybe someday, but not today. I get it. She hung up. No drama, no tears, just a click and then nothing. I sat on that bed for a long time after, and then I cried. Not for the money, not for the wedding drama or the group chat or the credit report on the projector screen. I cried because I lost my sister a long time ago, maybe before she was even old enough to know she was being used. And this phone call was the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. Loss doesn't always arrive all at once. Sometimes it shows up dressed like a family. I keep wondering, if Courtney had told me the truth sooner, would things be different? Or did my parents build a system where both of us were trapped, just in different cages? Courtney got the golden one, I got the invisible one, but we were both locked in. What do you think? Does Courtney deserve a second chance? Or does knowing at 15 and staying silent for 10 years make her just as responsible? Tell me in the comments. 3 months after the wedding, a letter arrived. Handwritten. My father's blocky print on the envelope. No return address, but I'd know that handwriting from across a parking lot. It's the same hand that labeled every shelf in his hardware store. Wendy, you're still our daughter. This has gone far enough. 11 words. No mention of the credit cards, no acknowledgement, no apology. Just a command dressed up as affection. Diane texted a week later. Can we have Christmas together? For family? The same phrasing she'd used in the group chat. The same packaging. Wrap the request in family and hope no one notices it's actually an instruction. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where Derek had spread the credit report, the same one where Ruth had played the recording, and I wrote back. One letter, on paper, because some things should be permanent. Dear Mom and Dad, I will always be your daughter. But I will not be in a relationship where my name is used without my permission. My reputation is damaged behind my back, and my boundaries are treated as disobedience. When you're ready to acknowledge what happened, not explain it, not justify it, acknowledge it. I'll be here. Wendy. I sealed it, stamped it, drove to the post office myself. No response came. Not that week. Not that month. I won't pretend that didn't hurt. It did. Every holiday that passed without a call landed like a small stone in a jar I keep somewhere behind my ribs. But the jar doesn't overflow anymore, because I stopped adding my own stones to it. The guilt, the self-doubt, the voice that used to whisper, maybe you should have just moved the date. I don't need an apology to move on, but I need honesty to stay. 6 months after the wedding, we closed on a house. Small, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, a front porch with a railing that needs paint. It sits on a half-acre lot at the edge of town where the streetlights end and the fireflies begin. My credit report came back clean. Every fraudulent account disputed, investigated, and removed. Derek walked me through the final letter from Equifax like it was a diploma, which, in a way, it was. Proof that my name belongs to me again. Ruth brought a rose bush the day we moved in. Pink climbers. She planted it by the front steps and said, every house needs something alive that comes back every year. Patty comes for dinner every Sunday now. She brings cornbread, Diane's recipe, which she learned first and makes better. We sit at our second-hand table, the 4 of us, me, Derek, Ruth, Patty, and we talk about everything and nothing, and nobody performs, and nobody keeps score. I still work nights. I still wear scrubs that smell like hand sanitizer and other people's emergencies. I chose this job because I wanted to help people on their worst days. Turns out, I needed to learn how to show up for myself on mine. I didn't get the family I was born into. I got the family I built. And every single person at that Sunday table chose to be there. The hardest boundary I ever set was a 6-word sentence. I'm not moving the date, Dad. And it changed everything. If you're waiting for permission to protect yourself from anyone, including the people who raised you, consider this your sign. You don't owe anyone your peace, not even family. Especially not family who borrows against your future and calls it love. That's my story. I know it's heavy, and I know some of you are sitting with your own version of it right now. A parent who controls, a sibling who takes, a family that asks you to shrink so someone else can shine. If this video made you feel seen, or angry, or a little lighter, that's exactly why I shared it. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this, and check the description below. There's another story about a woman whose family tried to sell her house while she was deployed overseas. It's unbelievable. Thank you for staying until the end. I'll see you in the next one.